Hey guys, Chung here. So in about a few days, Canon will announce their C70 and maybe also the C50. It's a very interesting camera because it's finally a compact cinema camera with an interchangeable lens mount, and it's gonna be the RF mount. So honestly, this camera is something people have been asking for, I think, like the last 5 years, ever since they released the Canon XC10, because that camera is a very nice compact cinema camera. However, the only bad side was that it was using the 1-inch sensor with that fixed lens. So if it was a Super 35 with like the EOS M mount back then, it would have been a major hit. However, yeah, Canon for the last several years haven't really been listening to like their customers for all the requirements that they would really like onto all the cameras. But somehow in 2020 now, they really listened to the customers and really started to change. Especially we saw that with the Canon R5, with like totally putting the market upside down, pushing 8K onto a mirrorless camera, while everybody else was more pushing for 4K 60p. And also of course, yeah, with now the C70, it's gonna be quite interesting how that camera will fall in the market, where it will sit precisely, because there is of course some specs that have been released and also or leaked out, and also a few images. So if we look at the specs list, we can kind of see where it will fall. So it is not a conversion of the Canon R5 to a cinema camera, which actually a lot of people thought it would be, but it will be with a Super 35 sensor instead of a full frame sensor, but still have the RF mount. But this sensor will be the same sensor as the Canon Mark III or C300 Mark III, and I think it's gonna be like a compact C300 Mark III but with an RF mount. So also what is noticeable on the list is that it will be able to record 4K 10-bit 4:2 onto SD card. So it probably will do that with like H.265. I'm not quite sure if they will be able to do that with like other codecs that are uncompressed to a SD card, because the speeds of SD cards aren't that fast. And also, yeah, it be able to record 4K up to 120 frames per second and 2K up to 180 frames per second. And we'll have ND filters and uses a Canon BPA battery. So those are the informations that are out right now. And yeah, also yeah, looking at the specs, it will be competing with like the C300 for a lot of the ENG guys, people who really need to like film in 10-bit. This will be quite an interesting camera. However, it won't have RAW, so it's kind of oddball right now, because there's so many cameras that can do RAW, and I think also the Canon EOS R5 can do RAW, so I'm not quite sure why this camera is not having RAW capabilities, or at least right now it doesn't say about anything about RAW. But yeah, when you look on the market right now, we have like the Blackmagic Pockets with RAW and actually up to 6K, and yeah, we have also from Zcam also up to 6K and 8K also. So yeah, this camera, not quite sure how well it falls into the market, or it is a bit of an too old of a camera to be released right now, because a lot of the cameras right now are talking more about RAW than having the high frame rate. Even though 4K 120 frames per second is really cool, but personally I feel like 4K 60p is like most what I would use, and yeah, 120 frames per second is quite a lot, but it doesn't have like RAW capabilities, which is a really downside on this camera, or at least right now doesn't say it can do. But hopefully maybe it could do it, or at least through like the HDMI out, so you have like external recorder recording the RAW. Overall, yeah, it is a interesting camera to see that Canon finally started to listen to the customers. But the next one that will be released is going to be the C50. So the C50, they say, will be a more entry-level version. So I'm not quite sure how spec-wise it would be. Maybe like 4K 60 and not with 1080p. So similar to when they released like the C300 and then the C100. It's quite gonna be a interesting if there's be a more entry-level version, maybe yeah, even small, maybe not smaller, but yeah, a much more entry-level version would mean like having much less features. So I'm not quite sure how well that would even be competing with what is right now on the market. However, one thing that it does be more interesting than other cameras out there is that, of course, having the internal ND, a more professional, bigger battery, and yeah, a lot of like plug or ports for a lot of users, like the two inputs for like mini XLRs, because I don't think that camera body can hold full-size XLRs. And actually looking at the image of the camera itself, we can spot a few things. So on the side we can see like a hinge, so we can expect a fully articulating screen, flip out screen on that section, and it will be like I think like a half size of the camera, or similar to like how it's also on the C100 Mark II, where we have like on top the screen and then on the bottom we have like the battery. However, I don't think we would get like a actual viewfinder with this camera, but use more of just a flip out screen. And also looking at the other side as the grip, we can see some edges or some yeah, lining or shapes of the camera itself. That grip won't be a fixed grip, but more of a grip that will be able to articulate or be moved into an angle similar to any of the Canon cinema cameras. So those are quite interesting features, and also they have like a top grip, but the top grip seems to be basically just only a grip. There's no electronics involved because I don't see like any buttons, but also it looks like it's only be able to give you like holding a microphone and also holding the cables for the microphone. Yeah, overall this is a interesting camera, but I do feel like they would really need to add RAW capabilities to the camera to actually make people more interested in this camera. But also I feel like yeah, there possibly be a Canon R5 version of this camera, because I don't know why they wouldn't do it, because the R5 yeah, internals, the mechanism or the hardware they do already have, and the only issue with the R5 right now is that it overheats, and in of course the bigger camera body of the C70 will be able to cool down much better, but also process the higher or big resolutions much easier. So yeah, hopefully that camera on the 24th we'll see like what the actual camera will be, if it will be a really cool camera that will be able to compete with all the other cinema cameras out there, or kind of a slight fluke and more be like a compact ENG camera, yeah, for a lot of broadcasts instead. So that was this video. If you have anything you want to say or ask, please comment below. And yeah, if you want to see more videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button here below. Thank you guys for watching. Be safe out there, and CD out.